In the last video with double balanced swords, I mentioned that there were a couple other levels that we can work with. The ones that we worked with prior were when we were just in standing mode. But when we're turning with our swords, we have in some of our moves the ability to make use of our upward arms to assist in the trajectory when we're turning. So we have two ways of motivating the swords when we turn. One is simply using the friction of the head against the swords. The other is using your arm that's going in the direction of the turn and using that to slightly start the turn. And we can use the other arm, if it's overhead, to gently stop the trajectory of the swords. So what I really want you to know is that when we are working with turning, if your arms are in a position to be used, by all means use them. And there's some slight modifications with the turns to make this principle work. So I'm going to go through 4 moves that make use of both of the arms in stopping and starting the trajectory of the swords. So after you get the swords, after you're able to do standing moves, double balance, try these moves, as these will be the next easiest level because they're making use of both arms in starting and halting the trajectory. So I'm going to show you the 4 moves as I turn on the music, and they are Propeller Turn, Strong Arm, Variation 1 and 2, the Medusa, and the Wraparound Turn. So the Propeller Turn is probably the easiest one to do with both hands, both arms, and it's so beautiful. So I give the cue as normal. Now I'm using my left arm to stabilize and propel, but I'm changing and using the right arm to give a slight halt. So if I can, because of these assists, I can sometimes do this turn a little bit faster. Because I've got the gas and the brakes. The other arm, the next move is the strong arm 1. So we're going to start with our arms overhead. We're going to give the cue. Sweep around. Again, I don't turn my head, but I can look towards the side. And here, when we go into the turn, I've got my right arm overhead. And to halt, I bring my left arm overhead. So let's look at that again. Wraparound, or the strong arm number 2, but we're going to do a slight modification, or just a slight awareness. We're going to do the cue. Beautiful reverse floreo. And here, when I'm going into my turn, I'm going to take my leg around the same time I take my left arm up and bring my right arm up to stop it. So we're making use of both of our arms, but I'm putting my first arm up as my leg wraps around to start the turn. So let's look at that again. And the final one is the Medusa. And what we want to do, we start the Medusa with our arms overhead as normal, but we're going to have a slight modification because we want to get the right arm behind the swords. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a similar start that we did with the strong arm, but you're not going to see the dancer's leg go back as we normally would with a strong arm. So to start the Medusa, going to just take it and bring it back, and then bring it nicely into the Medusa, using our eyes to follow. I'm going to use my overhead arm to slightly push. Change arms so that I have the left arm ready to stop. So I'll show you that again. And those are using both hands to both arms to both start and halt the trajectory of the swords.